Hello, my name is Joe and welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to make a video on March of the Mammoths. This is a booktube event created by Jason at Chapter and Verse. And for the past couple months I've been reading mostly shorter fiction. I haven't read a lot of nonfiction and I wanted to change that, and this is the perfect booktube event to make that happen. The idea of this event is that you pick something on your shelf, whether it be fiction or nonfiction, that's over 800 pages, that's been collecting dust, and it's something that you've been afraid to read because of the length, and March is the excuse to finally get that big, huge book read. Just to give you an idea of kind of what I've been reading recently, currently I'm reading the Cipher by Kathe Koja. So this is only 200 pages long, so this is the kind of book that I've been reading over these past couple of months. I've also read the first 3 books of Dungeon Crawler Carl. The 3rd book in that series is over 500 pages, and that's, I think, the longest book I've read this month. But everything else has been shorter than that. So I'm excited to finally read one of these books. So let's go ahead and get started. This first book, which I'll be honest, this is, well, one small caveat. This is, of course, At Dawn We Slept, The Untold Story of Pearl Harbor by Gordon W. Prange. I started this book kind of at the end of January, early February, got about 100 pages in, and then decided to go back to reading more fiction. So, out of all these books that we're going to talk about today as potential candidates, it's probably going to be this one. Another caveat is there's a number of these books, this one included. The text itself is under 800 pages. This copy, the text is about 750. But the book itself with an index is over 800 pages. And I'll tell you, 800 pages in your hand is 800 pages in your hand. So this, in my opinion, as well as all these others that are just shy of 800 pages of text, they all count in my opinion. So I'm adding them on this potential list. So anyway, that's At Dawn We Slept by Gordon Prange. Next up, we have another military history book. This is Crucible of War, The 7 Years' War and the Fate of Empire in British North America, 1754 to 1766 by Fred Anderson. Last year I read, speaking of, I've mentioned this author many times, Robert Leckie. I read his single-volume history on the Revolutionary War. Earlier this year, I read his single-volume history on World War II. He's a great author. I recommend him. And I wanted to read more books about the Revolution. But before I jump back into the American Revolution, I figured I should understand more about the 7 Years' War, which had a great effect on the American Revolution. If you look online, hey, which book should I get on the French and Indian War or the 7 Years' War? This always makes it to the top of the list. So, if March comes around and I see something on a video on YouTube that mentions the 7 Year War, it may spark an interest. So maybe I'll pick this one. Next up, we have the only fiction book on this list, and it is Brandon Sanderson's The Way of Kings. This is, of course, book 1 of the Stormlight Archive. The fantasy series that I'm reading, of course, is Dungeon Crawler Carl. I'm probably not going to be caught up in the series by the time we get to one of these books, so I don't know that I'm actually going to pick this. Another reason why I might not actually pick this anytime soon is because I'm only halfway through Wheel of Time. I do want to finish that series before I start any other major fantasy series. But again, who knows? Coming up next, we actually have 2 biographies coming up. I don't remember the last biography that I've read. And whatever it was not a Mammoth book. It was probably something very short. But we have a presidential biography. This is Reagan, An American Journey by Bob Spitz. And the reason I have this is really to act as a primer to read the book on Reagan that I really want to read, which is Edmund Morris's Dutch. And I've heard that that should not be your first biography on Reagan. You should read something else first. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I picked this out. I've heard good things, decent things about it. I know that it focuses a lot on his Hollywood career, and I know that it, or at least I've read that it remains fairly politically neutral when it talks about his presidency, which, I'll be honest, I think is probably sounds okay to me for a first book on Reagan. Another reason why I picked this out is this is an orange spine penguin, and I think they just look really cool on the shelf. So that's the aesthetics of this, I think, was one of the reasons why I chose this one out of the few Reagan biographies I saw at Barnes & Noble. So now we have another biography. And again, this is another presidential biography. And I just want to say, I do want to read more biographies. And I think I want to, hopefully, when I get to either the Reagan book or this book, this is, of course, Eisenhower and War and Peace by Gene Edward Smith. When I get to, whichever one of these I get to first, I hope that I enjoy it and that it causes me to want to read more presidential biographies. It's a subgenre of biographies that I'd love to get into. Who knows if I'm actually going to like them, and want to continue on reading about the presidents. But my idea with this book is, after I kind of get through a few World War II history books, I want to read up on the Korean War, and I want to use this as a bridge. Again, another book, technically slightly under 800 pages, but I don't care. Now, lastly, this book is truly over 800 pages. We don't have to rely on this technicality that I've created. This is another military history book. This is Dreadnought, Britain, Germany, and the Coming of the Great War by Robert K. Massie. This book was gifted to me at Christmas by a family member. I was not expecting it, and he told me that this was an excellent first book to read if you want to read more on World War I. I think he read this before he dove into the Guns of August, and he said, even though it's about 900 something pages, it's just shy of 1,000 pages. He said, even though it's long, he assured me that it was very readable. And when he started reading Guns of August, he said it made that book more enjoyable because he was already familiar with all the major players, that were involved in the start of World War I. So at some point, again, I may see a YouTube video on World War I and decide that March is when I'm going to read this. But that's all for now. So at the end of March, I'll report back and let everyone know which one of these books that I decided to tackle and let you know my thoughts on it. It's probably going to be the Pearl Harbor book, but who knows. But that's all for now. Thank you.